I'm Tom Rees and I'm here in Earls Barton, Northamptonshire. Earls Barton is obviously the very epicentre of Northants. It's the village where I grew up and went to primary school, and wedged right in the middle of the mighty towns of Wellingborough to the east, where I went to secondary school, and Northampton to the west, where I was head teacher of a primary school for a number of years, and until recently was education director at Northampton Primary Academy Trust. For the last year, I've been sat pretty much here in the same seat, working remotely as executive director at Ambition Institute, while we've worked with over 14,000 teachers and school leaders on various different professional development programs. It's such an exciting time for Northampton schools at the moment, and there's some really transformational work taking place in our schools. We've also got big changes taking place in the county at the moment with new unitary authorities, and so a really great time to be here today to celebrate the work of everyone involved in Northampton schools. In particular, it's important we recognise the huge effort of schools and teachers over the last year as part of the national effort in response to coronavirus. There is a renewed appreciation of and gratitude for teachers, for schools, and the critical role they play in communities and the wider society. According to a recent survey by Parent Ping, 2/3 of parents said they value the work of teachers more now than before homeschooling began. So, what better way to celebrate the work of teachers and schools than to invest in their professional development? It's why I'm really excited about what Educating Northants is doing today, but also why I'm so optimistic about the reforms to professional development for teachers and school leaders that are happening in the sector at the moment. So in what remains of these 7 minutes, I'd like to tell you everything you need to know about reforms to national professional development that are happening in 2021. I think there are at least 3 reasons to be cheerful. Number 1, the early career framework. Number 2, reforms to national professional qualifications. And number 3, a new infrastructure for professional development, including the role of teaching school hubs. So first up, the early career framework. We know that the single biggest factor in improving children's educational outcomes is the quality of teaching. We know that high quality teaching is an equaliser. Expert teaching is particularly important in helping those children from disadvantaged backgrounds to achieve outcomes that are closer to those of their more privileged peers. We also know that the best way we can improve the quality of teaching is through high quality professional development. It's a better bet than grading lesson observations, assessing against teacher standards, or performance related pay. But we also know that the quality and consistency of professional development across the sector is varied and often doesn't lead to the impact we want it to have. So an exam question for us in the system is, how do we fundamentally improve the quality and consistency of teacher professional development at a system level? Well, yesterday, the government published new statutory guidance which comes into effect from September and entitles Through the Early Career Framework, ECF, every new teacher who joins the profession to a 2-year structured programme of support and development. It's one of the most significant reforms to the teaching profession in a generation, and it's aimed at providing extended evidence-based development that will produce better trained teachers who can become more expert more quickly, and we hope as a result are more likely to stay in the profession. Support for newly qualified teachers is being extended from 1 year to 2 years, and protected time in their second year will be supported by additional funding, providing teachers with an extra 5% of non-teaching time in their second year. In the last 2 years since I've been working with Ambition Institute, we've worked closely on ECF through the ECF pilot that we ran to a few hundred teachers last academic year, the early rollout this year to over 4,000 participants, and now looking ahead to working with many more teachers and mentors in the system from September. Reason number 2, reforms to national professional qualifications. So for a number of years now, we've had MPQs in our system as a way of offering consistent and accredited training for leaders in schools. This has been really helpful for leaders in being able to dedicate time to professional learning, to build networks with others from outside their school. But the existing MPQ frameworks were ready for reform. They weren't underpinned by a body of evidence, They weren't coherent with the new ECF framework, and they were influenced heavily by generic approaches to leadership and transformational leadership theory. From September 2021, a reformed suite of MPQs will be available for teachers and leaders who want to develop their knowledge and skills in school leadership and specialist areas of teaching practice. So these include reforming the 3 existing MPQs in senior leadership, headship, and executive leadership, and replacing the current MPQ in middle leadership with 3 new specialist MPQs, one for leading teaching, one for behaviour, and one for leading teacher development. These shifts mark a step change to professional qualifications, which I hope will be more coherent than previous versions, will build more consistently on the learning that has come before as people progress through their career. So this notion of a golden thread that runs between the qualifications and a core body of knowledge and practice that sits at the centre of them. Reason number 3, a new infrastructure for professional development. So publishing new frameworks alone is unlikely to have the impact that we want it to in the sector. We need these frameworks to be brought to life by expert teachers and school leaders working within the system. So there's a new way of professional development being designed and delivered. For September, ECF and MPQ will be delivered into the system through a combination of lead providers, organisations like Ambition and others, and delivery partners, organisations such as teaching school hubs, school trusts, and other organisations who will be doing the delivery, the facilitation, working with participants on the front line. So I think these are really positive reforms that are taking place. Really excited about the impact that they could have. There's a lot for us to do collectively between now and September in the system. If you'd like to find out more, then there's lots online to read. You can follow me on Twitter at TomRees_77. I promise to tweet enthusiastically about this topic for the next few months. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy the rest of Educating Northants.